Lost but not forgotten, the mystery of the ship that sank during the First World War has finally been solved.
This is how the media reported our discovery of HMS Jason in April 2022. It was a lost in waters deep project and a magnificent outcome to what was a really interesting trip. Now, exactly how interesting it was isn't covered in any of the media stuff, so you're going to get it firsthand from me. It's a fantastic story. I was so chuffed to be involved in this project. Even now, 3 years on, it still makes me really proud of what we achieved on this trip. People had been looking for HMS Jason around the island of Col in the Inner Hebrides for years and years without success. Kevin Heath, who runs a Lost in Waters Deep website, teamed up with Bob Anderson, the skipper of MV Clasina, and together they've been running magnetometers and doing surveys in likely areas. So when they found a possible target towards the end of 2021, they were looking for some divers, and that's where the Mortimers, Steve and Barbs, came in. So this team planned a quick trip to Scotland to go and check out one of these dive sites, and I was lucky enough to be selected to be part of the team. Now, the problem with the Inner Hebrides, or in fact the Outer Hebrides, is that they're a long way from Devon, which is our normal stomping ground. Also, this was April, and that's about as the cold as the water gets. We're all soft southern folk, so going up to Scotland and diving in these conditions was always going to be particularly challenging for us. But the opportunity to be involved in the discovery of this magnitude was one that, frankly, none of us could miss. To complicate things further, we started in Oban, and to get to Col was more than a day's steam, so we did a dive en route, overnighted in Tobermory, went out to the Jason, stopped in on Col, went back to the Jason, came back to Tobermory, one last dive on the way back in, and then got back to Oban, and that was our 4 days. Frankly, the fact that this happened exactly as we planned it in April was pretty close to being a miracle. The more astute amongst you will soon realise, if you haven't already, that the set of fins on the left with the yellow gloves, that's me. So the camera, or the person that this camera is mounted to, is Fran. She's been in a few of my other videos. She's an awesome diver. I love diving with her. But between us, we had one stills camera and one video camera. So she had the video camera on her head. I had the stills camera. With a second pair in, you can see there, that's Brian. He wasn't diving today. I can't remember why, but he's obviously running the slate on the boat. And here we are. This is Fran in the gate because she's totally nails and she can do, pretty much whatever she wants. She's going to be taking in the lazy shot. There we go. Fran's got it. Clasina's quite high off the water, but no messing around. There you go. She's in, and you can see it was quite a balmy 15 degrees when we went in, but that temperature's soon dropping. Fran's just got a low oxygen alarm there. I suspect she just needed to breathe in a bit more and wait for the solenoid to kick off. But there you go. She's not messing around. She's straight on the shot line. Another thing about Fran that's absolutely nails. This water is, as you can see, it's now 10 degrees, and she's wearing wetsuit gloves. So I'm not. I'm wearing my beautiful dry gloves because I am a big wuss, frankly. So anyway, there I go. I'm going down. You can see the lazy shot is already heading down. It's slightly it's ended up on the back of my gear, so I'm just kind of rolling around trying to sort that out, which I think I do in a minute. But there we go. It's quite nice actually in a video for a change to see me in the camera rather than me taking videos of loads of other people. No doubt I'll be able to spot all my mistakes. And one of the things you're going to see in a bit, there is an absolute horrendous mistake that I make in a bit. So you hang on there. There's also one of the coolest things I've ever seen underwater. I did a presentation about this dive a few years ago, and the thing that I particularly talked about was what Fran does in a bit when we get down to putting the lazy shot on. What we're doing at the moment, though, is we're doing bubble checks. So I'm just having a quick look at her. She's had a look at me already, so we're kind of we're good. No bubbles. In fact, sorry, she hasn't had a look at me. Here she is. She's having a look at me, and you can see there, no horrendous bubbles coming off my gear. So we're all good. Now, One of the other interesting things about this trip is we were all expecting the dive depth to be 85 metres maximum. And as you'll see when we get down to the bottom, it actually turns out to be a bit more than that, which was, we were all a bit nervous about this because it is April, which is really early in the diving season, inverted commas. But also, we know it's going to be cold. You can see here we're at 12 metres, it's 9 degrees C. It never gets that cold in Plymouth. And certainly, this is where we're going to be doing our Deco stops. Never gets that cold when we're doing stops. So we've all got our extra winter woolies on, and we're all fully expecting to be really chilly. But in order to kind of mitigate that, one of the things that we do is we actually do quite short run times. And you can see the normal Deco profile at the end of this video, so you'll be able to see exactly what I did. You can also hopefully see that I've got the shearwater overlay on the side here. Now this is my moment of realization, is that I basically had one job on this dive, which was my job was to bring the Prosic loop, and I've forgotten. So this is kind of a problem because we know this area is really tidal, and if we don't put a Prosic on, then what is going to happen is the lazy shot will ride up and get shallower and shallower and shallower, and that's not good for Deco. So we need a Prosic loop. I'm kind of looking at Fran. Fran is the sort of person who doesn't mess around. So Fran knows instantly what to do. And this is there's actually a reasonable amount of tide here at the moment, and that's why the lazy shot is up quite high. That's why we're both finning. What Fran is doing is she's pulling out her spool from her pocket. So that's her spare DSMB. There you go. You can see her spool, and what she's going to do underwater is make a Prosic loop, which she's going to do in whatever thickness gloves those are, 3 or 5 mil thick gloves, but they're pretty thick. In fact, you can see her thumb sticking out of one of them. That's just how nailed she is. So she's dismantling her spare DSMB system there, and you can see she's let go of the rope. Because she's let go of the rope, obviously the current's pulled her away from the lazy shot. So she's finning relatively hard into the current, and she is, as you can see there, is pulling off her reel, and she's going to make a Prosic. She's asked me for some help. She's asked me for some scissors, and I'm kind of looking at her slightly blankly, as in, what on earth are you doing here? So Fran's going to have to sort it all out by herself. So I'm particularly underperforming here. Yeah, you see me looking up the line, perhaps praying that somebody's going to realise we haven't got a Prosic and drop it down. Fran, she doesn't mess around. She's got her trilobite out there, her net cutter, and she is going to be the person who is making this Prosic loop. So this is exactly the kind of diver that Fran is. She is totally unperturbed. She copes well with what is actually quite a tricky issue. And I still say this is one of the coolest things that I've done underwater, which is I've seen done underwater, which is completely unfazed, and she makes this Prosic loop out of her other bits of diving gear, all the while she's swimming in this quite strong current. So there you go. Here you go. My role in this is I hold her spool while she goes and does the job that I should have done. It's I can't say enough how impressive I consider this to be. So, having swam back to the shot line, having cut off a bit of string from her spool, she's now got to tie nuts underwater, wearing, I think those are 5 mil neoprene gloves, which is the sort of thing I don't think I could do that on the surface, let alone trying to do it underwater in the in 9 degrees water at 40 odd meters in a current, whilst her useless buddy sits there, looking on, his sole contribution to proceedings being to hold her spool. But there you go. Always dive with people better than you. That's my top tip. And there you go. You can see she has constructed a Prosic loop, and that's really cool. I think, as you would expect, once I got to the surface and this became common knowledge, Fran didn't tell anyone, but I did. Once it got to the surface, it became common knowledge. Everybody mercilessly and quite rightly abused me for my for getting the Prosic, and B, being utterly useless in helping Fran. So there you go. That was a bit of excitement on the way down, and for those of you who are following the profile, you will see that that's what accounts for the kind of the big step almost on the profile. But we have sorted things out. Well, not quite. Fran's still got to put all her gear back away, so she's decided not to mess around with the spool, so that's gone in her string bag. I think she's got some video lights in there. That's what's in there. We're now carrying on back down again, and you can see it's still 9 degrees. It's starting to get a bit colder, but that current is still there, and you can probably see that she's let go again, and she's got to swim back onto the shot line, which is not the easiest thing in the world. So, and I don't think we should blame the skipper for necessarily putting us in like this. In fact, we shouldn't blame the skipper. It was simply that tides in this area are difficult to predict. There isn't any particularly good tide tables or anything like that. So what we did, though, is this is the first dive that we did on Jason. We came back the next day, and because we were better informed about the tides, when we dived it the next day, it was far more pleasant in terms of current. But this was our first dive on it, and the other thing, of course, is we have absolutely no idea what to expect. All we've seen is that grainy image that you saw at the beginning. Now, it does look like there's a boat down there. It looks like there's that long, thin shape, but we didn't know for certain. So it was absolutely exploratory diving. And you've probably heard me say in other videos, this kind of thing, when you have no idea what's on the bottom, is really, really quite exciting. Albeit this bit here where you're swimming down the line into current, that's obviously quite hard work, and you can see me there anyway. Yeah, I'm working quite hard to keep moving forward and down. And one of the other things is there's quite a lot of line on this, and that was obviously to make sure that it was hooked into the wreck. But because there's quite a lot of line on it, that obviously meant that we have to swim quite a long way. So not only are you going down, but you're going along as well. And you can see that in the profile. So you can see that probably the descent time is going to be about 10 minutes, which is actually a really long time to get down to 90 metres. Obviously, we've had all that faffing around with the Prosec, but quite a lot of it is actually just swimming along the line as well. So divers, particularly on deeper stuff, you either want a scooter to get down as quickly as possible, or you want to make sure that the shot line is as kind of, there's as little of it as possible, so or it's vertically. But this is the kind of worst situation where you've got quite a long shot line, a bit of current, it just becomes really hard swimming down. You can see here we're still only at 60 metres, and we're coming up to the kind of 9-minute point. Fran's just given me an okay signal there with the torch, and I think I completely ignore her. So I guess I'm just kind of focused into swimming in this current and getting down. So a bit about HMS Jason. By the time of the First World War, so this was sunk in 1917, it was basically obsolete. So what they were doing is they were using it as a minesweeper. So along with another similar vessel, it basically had a length of cable between it, and they were towing the cable up and down an area to try and clear the channel to make sure there was no mines in it. Now, the Germans in the First World War were really good record keepers, and this is the record from the German submarine log, the KTB as they were known, and you can see there that their line of mines there. Putting the line of mines on a modern chart, that's that red line there, and number one on there is where the UKHO reckon HMS Jason is. Number two is where we actually found it, which you can see is just inside the line where they reckon they'd swept. So Jason was really unlucky. The lucky bit for the crew, though, was because they were with another vessel, HMS Circe, the majority of the crew were rescued. Unfortunately, one body was recovered and 24 guys were missing, so that's really sad. And they're all commemorated in one of the local churches. But and this tragedy is still remembered in the local area. The other thing Circe was able to do was get a photograph of HMS Jason sinking, and as you can see here, it sunk bow first. Obviously, that's where the mine hit. The stern stayed up in the air for a bit, and then obviously the whole thing headed to the seabed. If you look at that photo closely, you'll see that the starboard prop is clearly visible, and we're going to come back to that later on during the dive. At this bit of the dive, though, as you can see, we've still not got down to the bottom. It's pitch black. Now, that's been great. Obviously, I've been able to give you a bit more detail about the sinking and all those kind of things. But you would, at this point, 11 minutes into the dive, you would have hoped to have been on the bottom for quite a while. Obviously, where we are now, we are just building a decompression penalty without actually doing anything useful. We haven't seen the seabed. The good news, though, is you can probably just start to see the Strobes in front of us, and that was the from the first pair down. So that's great. Apart from this is 85 metres, this is where we're expecting the seabed to be, not expecting to see the Strobes, which are clearly quite a long way down further. So we know that we've still got further to go, and we've been working quite hard for quite a long time here. So I don't mind fessing up to being to be really keen to get to the bottom at this point. Obviously, that's dangerous as well. All the time you're working hard, you're building up carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is bad for pretty much any diving reason that you care to mention. You can see Fran; she's well prepared. You've already seen how well prepared she is, but she's clearly prepared now. So she's got a strobe out. She's ready to clip it on, and it looks as though we might just be able to see some seabed down there. You can see something's reflecting my light, which is great news. She's got a similar strobe to me. Unlike mine, hers has got yellow tape on it. So we all do that. We all mark our strobes in a different way, so people don't pinch them. But even though we can see what potentially is a seabed, what we can't see is any metal until now. And then the moment that happens, that you see metal, that is really good news, because clearly there is something down here. And it's not just a rock, because that was the risk. If you remember all the way back to the side scan, there was to the multi-beam, there was two bits. Effectively, it was a long thin bit and there was a big round bit. The big round bit turned out to be a rock, and the long thin bit was the wreck. And that's the reason nobody had found Jason for so long, is because most people, when they did a survey, they spotted the rock, and they just thought, oh, this was part of the rock. Anyway, here we are. So there you go. You can see that's Will down just on the left. He's just given us a bit of useful information. He's told us which way the prop is, spinny thing, and he's pointed off to the right. So that's really useful. Already we're able to orientate ourselves on the dive site, and military vessels are always great because they're absolutely full of stuff, but because they have so much stuff on them, it can sometimes be confusing trying to figure out exactly what is where. But the fact is, we're now orientated to the wreck, so that's absolutely fantastic. And you can see there, I'm off already. Now, one of the things with this is, although we've got a camera, what we don't actually have is any video lights. So the video of footage of this dive is not actually that great. Some good news is that Fran is going to get her video lights out in a bit, and that will make a real difference. First, though, she's doing a bit of admin. You can see she's her DSMB that obviously she took apart earlier on has come out, and she's put that in the bag with the spool as well. So she's just making sure that everything's all sorted. But you've also seen, there you go, she's got the video lights out, and she's going to hold them in her hand. Now, this was round about this time we weren't really doing things properly in terms of, or I wasn't really doing things properly in terms of videoing and stuff. So you can see here she's got a video light in one hand. There we go. I've given her an okay. She's given me the okay, and there you go. She's illuminating stuff, and actually that's a lot better. I just wish, though, that I'd got the rig that I have now. I wish that I had it for this dive, because you can see it's absolutely pitch black, but actually visibility is quite good, and I'd have got much better footage if I'd have had some decent quality video equipment. Still, we live and learn, and the good news is at least that we do have some video footage. And as we're moving along here, you can probably see there is just all sorts of stuff. So this is kind of engines. This is boilers, that kind of stuff. So off to the right hand side, possibly a Yarrow boiler. That might be a condenser there. Off to my left hand side, and Navy ships, especially this era, this was kind of peak Royal Navy. I think this was built in 1897, so as the Royal Navy had ruled the seas ever since the Battle of Trafalgar, it was incredibly well resourced. It was the pride of the nation and all those kind of things. So and the quality of the ships that they had absolutely reflected that. So you're going to see as we go through this all sorts of stuff. In fact, one of the things I should probably mention is at the end of this video I'm going to put a montage of photos which were taken by various people, and that includes photos that were taken on the second dive. So on this first dive, Fran and myself don't really go to the bow. In fact, we don't go to the bow. So you're going to get a whole load of stern stuff. You can also, so the footage or the photos I show are going to be stuff from the bow. I don't know why, but we didn't. I think the camera went US for the second dive, so we don't have any video footage of the second dive, which is a real pity. But hey, we've got something, and we've got those photos that you're going to be able to see later on. So this is us, though, making our way to the stern. Fran obviously needs a bit of gas in her wing, and I think one of the kind of challenges that she faces, being a smaller person, and she's got the G-box on her unit, is it's so heavy that even with no weight on, she can't be neutrally buoyant with her dry suit, so she always has to use her wing and her dry suit, which obviously just makes it a bit more challenging. I'm sure plenty of people have seen my video about this whole subject, and you will know that I just use my dry suit for doing buoyancy. And if you want to have a big discussion about it, that's further on. But this here on the right hand side, Fran's just going over the barrel. That is the stern gun. So absolutely fantastic. You see a gun, you know you're on a warship. Well, not entirely true. You might be on a defensively armed ship, but we've seen so many bits of brass and so many other bits that this is clearly a warship. What Fran has also seen there is boxes and boxes of ammunition. You can see them clearly on the seabed there. I think she's going to come back to those in a minute. Me, I'm carrying on sternwards. You can see there that kind of that's the sort of thing that you get in a galley of a ship. The kind of weird, I guess, T-shaped thing. There's probably a proper name for them that I don't know. You see there's a brass, looks like a porthole down there that Fran's just gone over. There's a whole load of stuff going on down here, and also a good sign that this wreck has never been dived, because certainly if people had dived this back in the day, everything on here would have gone, but there's brass stuff all over the place. I mean, there's a brass plaque or something there. I mean, who knows what that is. It would have probably been nice to get that to the surface, and almost certainly there'd have been writing on it. The decision on this dive was that we would lift nothing, and that's Bob Clasina. That's his kind of policy for anybody who dives on his boat, and we all obviously we follow that as well, because hey, skipper's rule is final, even if sometimes it would be really useful to get stuff up to the surface, like anything with writing on, because they can often solve things. So, one of the things is that we dive this twice. It's clearly a Navy ship. It's the right size and shape and features and everything for Jason. We don't find anything conclusive that says it is HMS Jason. We don't find the bell. We don't, obviously we don't find anything with any writing. About the best we do is some crockery that's clearly Navy crockery. You can see that down there, and you can see it on some of the photos. What we do have, though, is the plans for HMS Jason, and we'd studied those before we went down. One of the great things about any Kevin Heath trip is that they're so well researched. So you kind of have all this kind of primary source data. So what that does is allow you to look for specific features, and then if you see those, you can align them to the plans. So here we go. I mean, you can see here. This is a really interesting thing. We never entirely figured out what this was, but we think, that's really obvious. That's a prop, 3-bladed prop with a kind of P mount on it there or whatever, but the thing that was below it, the brass kind of object, was some sort of we think it was the top of a binnacle. That's what we kind of ended up in. So the emergency steering position at the stern, probably that was part of that. I mean, it would be a wonderful thing to see on the surface, and I have to say I'm always a big fan of stuff being up on the surface. Something like this, HMS Jason, wouldn't it be fantastic to have the bell or the maker's plate or something like that in the local church where those people are commemorated? You've probably seen the drive shaft is off to the right of Fran, kind of stuck up in the air, but she's back at these boxes. You can see they look like they've got ammunition inside them. The box themselves are essentially are smashed up, so they've the time and tide and current and elements and all those kind of things have broken them up. I found something there that I'm having a look at. Don't know exactly what it is. I think Fran's swimming around in this area. She's kind of I'm not 100% certain what she's looking for, but probably coming to see what I'm looking at. Yeah, there you go. That looks like it looks like I've actually found a sink. I probably thought that was a bowl and therefore was looking for something on the base of it, some sort of mark or whatever. But unfortunately, a sink is not much use in identifying a wreck. There's a lobster who's like, what on earth is happening? What on earth is going on here? Never seen divers before. Probably never will see divers. They just come and invaded his home. Fran's very interested in those ammunition boxes. I think she's showing them to me. No doubt she wants me to get a photograph of them, and therefore she's probably trying to illuminate them. Yeah, there you go. She's pointing them out to me, saying, look, there's ammo boxes. And obviously ammunition, you can tell stuff about a wreck. So caliber, for instance, allows you to know what size guns are on. So these to me look like 4.7 inch shells, which is what Jason carried, sort of the stern armament. If you were to get a shell up, often they have dates on them, so when they were manufactured, but also they would get packed every now and again, and so the stamp on them can often, you maybe find out sinking information by when they were packed. So for instance, the vessel didn't sink after the date it was packed. Sorry, didn't sink before the date it was packed. So shells, you get a surprising amount of information from them. Also, where they were manufactured, so you can tell nationality of ship sometimes. So don't neglect your shells. There you go. That's a message. We've obviously turned around and we're kind of heading back. There's a load of bottles there. So this, I guess, would tie up with this being a galley area. There was that chimney that we saw earlier on, which is, very similar chimneys are still seen on ships today. And the great thing about them is obviously they let the smoke out but don't allow water in, so that's good. I mean, it would have been nice to bring up some of these bottles as well, because once again, bottles, particularly this era, can tell you things, once again, age, nationality, those kind of things. But hey, we said we weren't going to do it, so those bottles are all still down there. You can see she's looking into all this other stuff, and the rear of ships tend to be where crew compartments are and messes and galleys and all that kind of stuff. So that means that there's almost certainly a whole load of interesting things down here. What we have to think about though is our runtime. You can see the TTS is up at 73 minutes now. Our dive time is at 23 minutes. So we're starting to think about getting back at some point. That looks like a mast. Base of a mast there, perhaps. Like all ships of the day, they did have masts, not necessarily for putting sails up. They obviously put flags on them. They used them for spotting, various other bits and pieces. So, although this wasn't a sailing ship, it was kind of not long after the transition from sail to actual steamships. So, the Navy, they still love masts on ship. They still love signalling. The other thing you can see there is Fran's video. Like you can probably see the one on the left has got a red bit on the top of it. So that's battery life is on the way out. The one on the right seems okay. There's another porthole with a bronze deadlight. So in fact, there's another one as well. So there is just tons and tons of stuff down here, which is incredible and really nice to see. Although nothing really compared to the stuff that we saw on the next dive when Fran and me went forward and we went to the bow, and there's all the bridge gear there. It's absolutely incredible. The only thing we didn't see was the bell. So no doubt that's around somewhere. But Fran and me we're quite well attuned as a diving pair, and we are both thinking about that decompression to come and the fact that it's going to be blooming cold. So we're both we're starting to head back to the shot line. You see, as we're going past all this kind of this bits of machinery. Difficult to kind of figure out exactly what it is. You probably just saw the strobes in front of you as there. You can see Fran's keeping an eye on me. She's really good like that, and she's very good at telling me when I need to do stuff. But what we both need to do at this point is get ourselves back up off the bottom and head towards an awful lot of Deco. You can see there, she's given me a thumbs up, so that's my signal that we need to be heading back. So we're both moving towards the shot, and as we go, we're obviously taking the last opportunity to have a look around. And I think one of the real disappointments from me is that we only got to dive this twice. I've not been back there. I would absolutely love to do this, although maybe not in April, maybe like in September when the water's a bit warmer, and also when I've got a bit more of a heated I've got my new heated suit. That would be absolutely lovely. Anyway, you can see the strobes flashing away. That's always a welcome sight. It means that you know where the shot line is, you know where the way home is. And you can see there, if you have a look at the graph on the bottom, you can see that we're just about to start heading up. Fran's going to turn off her video lights, and she's going to get stick those in her bag. She's going to get her strobe, and then we're going to head up to surface. Obviously, the computer that you've been watching, the overlay is my overlay for this dive. It's not Fran's. So, but we were both diving the same type of computer. We were both diving the same gradient factors. We were both using the same gas. So the information will be the same for both of us. And this is us about to leave the bottom. You can probably see that we're already starting the ascent. And round about this point, what's going to happen is Fran's Paralenz is going to die. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that we had a lot with the original Paralenz. It wasn't until I got the Vaquita that these kind of issues started stopping, and I would be able to get reliable video on pretty much every dive I did. And that's why a lot of my earlier videos, either the video isn't great or it's missing. But hey, something's better than nothing. Right, I promise you my Deco profile. Here it is. You can see that big, long, slow descent. So, and I don't actually get to the bottom there until about nearly 13 minutes. We spend not much more than 10 on the bottom, and then we head all the way back up. Interesting enough, on this dive, I do the change of diluent. I do the dill flush and everything. So that helps out a bit with the Deco time. And there you go. You can see come out after about 2 hours. Freezing cold because I'm a big wuss. Fortunately, Viz wasn't too bad on the stops. You can see there, that's a photo I took, but this is where we spent the majority of our time. And you can see Kindles were definitely order of the day then. Now, I promise you some more photos. This one is of Fran with a porthole. This here is a Telegraph Royal Navy coffee grinder one. Next one up is the helm, and if you have a look below it there on the left hand side, you can see the actual brass that would have been part of the wheel. Here's the forward gun, and that one's by Rick, which is a good one, and this one here is by me, which is not so good. You've already seen there were these things. There were portholes with brass headlights all over the place. I've got no idea what this is, but it looks pretty cool. There, that is the binnacle, or the remains of it. A Royal Navy plate clearly there, and this is the thing that I have to say I loved most of all. It broke my heart leaving it down there. That is the fish from the ship's log, so that's how they would have calculated speed. And then next to it is a lamp. So there's Fran and me getting ready to go in. This is the crew doing what they do, getting the lazy shot in by the looks of things. There's the whole team. I think it's really important to remember that this is a team game. It's not one or two people, but our leader, the organiser, the inspiration on this was Kevin, and he quite rightly picked up the BZAC 2022 Expedition Award for this incredibly successful project. So this was an epic adventure with a great team, brilliant outcome. I was so proud to be a small part of it. I hope you've enjoyed hearing all about it, and as always with my videos, I hope you'll leave us a like, you'll drop us a comment, and of course I hope you watch another one of them. Okay, thanks a lot.